As a fan of RPGs, I'm thankful to have so many games to play. But there is a hole in my heart that needs to be filled by a particular game. I should replay this amazing game, but there's something else waiting for me. I'll play all the games I want. I don't care about my backlog. But I need to experience more Final Fantasy games to be a true fan. But I won't forget the last time that happened and how that turned out. I guess I'll play it, but I'll do it my own way. Because I don't want to feel alone anymore, having not beaten Final Fantasy IX. Oh wait, it's been quite a while since I actually beat the game, so anyways, let's talk about it. Hey guys, Nish Quick here. So I started Final Fantasy IX in April of this year, I think, around that time, and I have now completed the game and I'm ready to talk about it with you guys. And if you guys remember my FF7 video, my learning to love Final Fantasy VII video, you might remember that had a lot of attempts. I failed many times trying to play the game. This one was a one and done. I started the game in April, played it through from beginning to end, and I've completed it, and I want to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about it with you guys, and this doesn't have much of a backstory or anything. I'm just gonna go right in, talk about the game, what I loved, what I maybe didn't like, and you guys might be a little bit surprised about what I have to say in here. So I don't want to dilly-dally, shilly-shally any longer. Let's get right in and talk about Final Fantasy IX. So I don't usually start traditional reviews with the story, but I really want to here. For Final Fantasy IX, it's the main focus of the game and the thing that really hooked me the most. Here's a quick synopsis for those who are unfamiliar with anything, and no worries, no spoilers at this point. Final Fantasy IX takes place in the fantastical world of Gaia, blending classical Final Fantasy elements together to create a one-of-a-kind, memorable narrative. You follow the adventures of Zidane Tribal. And yes, I'm gonna call him Zidane because that's what Dissidia calls him. If you don't believe me, look at this clip.
Hey! Zidane!
So, Zidane is a charismatic and skilled thief who's part of the Tantalus theater troupe. Zidane's journey begins when the troupe is hired to kidnap Princess Garnet of the Kingdom of Alexandria. However, as they escape with the princess, they find themselves tossed into a much larger conflict. Garnet is determined to uncover the truth of her mother, Queen Barn's increasingly aggressive action, and decides to flee with Zidane and his friends to learn of some answers. Along the way, they encounter a diverse cast of characters and work together to stop a massive war which is brewing across the world. As they travel across Gaia, the group uncovers the sinister motives of various adversaries and mysteries about the powers of the mystical Eidolons, which are this Final Fantasy's version of the iconic summons. Alongside all of this, Zidane and his companions also confront their own personal struggles and discover the true meaning of friendship and identity. I have to say, This is one of the most gripping narratives I have ever experienced in a video game in a very long time. I know that's very high praise, and I'm very glad I went into this game knowing very little about it, opposed to a game like Final Fantasy VII, where I knew a lot of the twists, like about Aerith and Cloud and Zack and a lot of that. A lot of the twists and turns before even starting the game myself. My expectation going into this game was that it would be wholesome, but a simple narrative, nothing too dark or depressing. Boy, was I wrong. This game goes full into heavy subject matter dealing with war, depression, existentialism, greed, loneliness, etc. All par for the course for JRPGs at this point, but the exterior is very deceiving. You see this cover, and this one too, and then you see all these characters and how they look. It's kinda cute and sorta chibi-like, right? They can't be embroiled in a massive story about war and the fate of the entire world, right? I love how this game played with my expectations that way. I go in expecting a great story because of what I hear from friends and other fans, but I walk out absolutely mind-blown that this is still the one-of-a-kind game that I'm looking for. The characters are faced with harsh realities, dealing with earth-shattering problems that they have little to no control over, and they come to terms with their own existence. A lot of this, in part, is thanks to the fantastic cast of characters in this game. I really clicked with all of them, and that's because of how phenomenally they are all characterized in every single way. Their designs, movement, animations, dialogue, actions in the narrative, and not to mention their character themes. You have the heroic and friendly Zidane, the timid and fearful Vivi, the overprotective and often judgmental Steiner, the contemplative and compassionate Freya, the reserved yet determined Garnet, the vivacious and youthful Aiko, the mysterious and enigmatic Amarant, and Kina. But these are just a few ways of describing each of these characters. Each of them developed significantly throughout the course of the game, though some are more prevalent to the story than others. They all have a major part to play in the grand scheme of the story. There's something that 7 did, and even does in the remakes, and that's splitting up the party and forcing you to be in certain party formations in specific story segments and moments. I didn't really like this in the original Final Fantasy VII, and even in Remake and Rebirth, I wasn't too big of a fan of it, because I often felt forced into it and maybe didn't like the characters I had to control at that time. 9 does this too, but it does it in a very unique way, and at the best times in the game. Not everyone is together all the time, and sometimes once the party breaks apart, you get to experience dynamics, dialogues, and moments you would not have expected, and this doesn't feel forced. It happens naturally in the flow and pacing of the story, and works very well. So once everyone is reunited, you have even cooler moments since Party A experienced a major event that totally changed them, and seeing how that affects Party B once both parties are reunited is actually pretty cool. The plot twist threw me off consistently. I don't want to get too much in detail on the story because I have an entire spoiler section later, but I have to say, the pacing and narrative overall was something that really just clicked with me. There were times in 7 and 16 that were just slow for me, but 9 was just a smooth experience throughout. There wasn't a part where I felt bored or it really took me out of the experience. The only really slow time in the story I can think of was the card game tournament in Trino, and that wasn't even that bad of a moment. Also, in the quieter and slower moments, you get really good character building, exploration, fights, and music, so there was never really a dull moment in this game. Another new and interesting addition that assisted with progressing the slower moments and adding to character dynamics were the active time events, or the ATEs. It's cool to sometimes see what other supporting characters are up to while the main characters are doing the important things. Or if the party splits up when they arrive at a large town or a village with a lot of things to do, it's cool to see some small entertaining moments of party members or characters close to the party just going about their own business while also getting some interesting development from them. Overall, I can confidently say From what few Final Fantasy games I have played, 9 right now has my favorite story and maybe even my favorite cast of characters. 10 could change that with the story, and Rebirth is a strong contender for having my favorite cast, but 9 just has a perfect balance of both, and I really appreciate that. You guys might remember from my video from 7, if you guys saw that, I did not like the art style and the overall graphical style of the game. And I gotta say, as I played more 7, I got used to it. I grew to appreciate and enjoy the game for what it was despite its limitations. But guys, I'm gonna be honest, after playing 9, after completing 9, it sort of makes me look at 7 a little worse, and that might sound like a very terrible thing to say, but I'm just absolutely blown away by the level of detail and the sheer scope of some of these towns, villages, and dungeons, and just the world map in Final Fantasy IX compared to Final Fantasy VII. The towns in particular are insane in the best way possible. When I arrived in Lindblum for the first time, I literally explored every single nook and cranny in all districts of the city. I could not believe my eyes as to how massive, detailed, and full of life this town was. I was so happy because this game was giving me that retro experience that I was craving. I often forgot that the game I was playing, Final Fantasy IX, was a PS1 game. The size of the world map and the diversity of the continents was just incredible. I got a taste of this in 7, with the area right outside Midgar feeling different from areas like Junon, Cosmo Canyon, and Nibelheim. But 9's world map being larger and having a wide variety of different areas in it was mind-blowing to me, like going from the bright and vibrant town of Lindblum to the gloomy and stormy lands of Burmecia, and then to a completely different area in the sands of Clyra, then climbing up all the way to the top of the tree to reach one of the highest points in the game. And this was only in Disc 1 and only on the first of 4 continents in the world map, and just scratching the surface of the cool and unique locations you get to visit in this game. Another thing I want to talk about is the cutscenes, or the FMVs in this game. I remember so many people from the PS1 era talking about how cool these FMVs are, especially in games like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, and Chrono Cross. And they're used to add more immersion and an extra layer of cinematic feel to these story-heavy games. The FMVs in 9 are not only detailed, but also grand and beautiful, especially with the summons and eidolons playing a very big role in this game. Some of the most high-octane moments are elevated to an even grander and greater level with the addition of these fantastic and grandiose cutscenes. Since we're on presentation here, and you might be seeing some of the gameplay footage right now, I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about what version of this game I played and how exactly I played it. Because if you guys recall from my FF7 review, I started off on the Switch, hated the visuals, then eventually moved over to PC and Steam Deck with the use of the 7th Heaven mod manager, and specifically the Suna mods and the Satsuki Yatoshi mod, to recreate the background visuals and change the sprites to better looking HD models. For FF9, I was also considering the Switch version, but I again saw a video from the fantastic Eric Ladd, who was showcasing the best way to play Final Fantasy IX in 2023. What he was showing off was called the Moguri mod, which is nowhere near as drastic as the mods available in the 7th Heaven mod manager for Final Fantasy VII. The biggest change in this one is better AI upscaling and just bringing a better level of detail to the already perfectly stylized game. A comparison between the normal PC/PS4/Switch version with the Moguri mod version made it quite evident that the remaster was unfortunately not as good as it could have been. But I'm also glad the Moguri mod doesn't overhaul what is already present in FF9 and changes identity entirely. The pre-rendered backgrounds and environments in this game are so perfectly put together, and each new location you go to and each little section of this game is framed and constructed to a T with its camera angles, backgrounds, character models, lighting, etc. I'm glad the mod only enhances what's already there instead of recreating something altogether. Not saying that the Suna mods of FF7 did the opposite, but some like to say otherwise. I played the entirety of this game on my Steam Deck. As you Steam Deck owners might know, this was a major choice since modded versions of these kinds of games don't support Steam cloud saves, so the entirety of the game had to be played on the deck. I was fine with this though, especially with how much I prioritize handheld gaming now. But with the recent purchase of my new and handy Steam Deck dock, I was able to play on my desktop, stream this game to some of my friends on Discord, and even record all the footage you guys are seeing here right now. I want to shout out and give a special thank you to Junimo for his in-depth and easy-to-follow guides on how to set up both the 7th Heaven mod manager and the Moguri mod on PC and Steam Deck. I forgot to give him a shout out in the FF7 video, but I want to thank him for the help on both the mods in this video right now. If you guys are interested in modding your PC version of Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX, definitely check out his channel. The only problem I had with the Moguri mod was after I beat the final boss, there was one final cutscene that I needed to experience before the ending sequence. Unfortunately, once the cutscene that leads into the final cutscene ended, my game crashed, and it did this twice. So unfortunately, I had to watch the final cutscene and the ending credits online. I did see some people have a similar issue, so I don't think I'm alone in this, but hey, at least I beat the final boss on my own, right? Overall, this game is charming, beautiful, and a true showcase of how amazing the PlayStation 1 can be when it comes to bringing breathtaking and immersive worlds to life. So far, there's been nothing but praise for this game in this review, but I'm finally gonna get into some slight criticisms here. So, in 9, you don't have materia like you did in 7 that you used to slot into your equipment and gear, but instead each character has their own set character class and can only equip certain kinds of gear. And each piece of gear allows that character to use a specific ability, which is exclusive to that character or class. I kinda liken this to your equipment already coming with command materia slotted within it, but there's a little more to it than that. Once you master those abilities by fighting enemies and gaining ability points, you can use that ability without even needing to have that piece of gear associated with that ability equipped on the character. I like this system a lot because it allowed me to experiment with characters based off of which abilities were my favorite and not only just how they normally attacked. And it encouraged me to keep finding and purchasing and synthesizing new gear and weapons for them to get their best abilities. I unfortunately had this really bad habit of wanting to max out every single ability on every single character until I realized that probably wasn't the best idea. There were some abilities like the green equipable passive abilities that I realized that I don't really need on some characters, and also some command abilities that I felt were a little redundant on others, so I just ended up prioritizing the ones that were best for the specific characters I was wanting to get it for. I prefer this system to the materia system since it's a little more streamlined and more straightforward, but I will say, in terms of complexity and overall quality in gameplay and build variety, I will have to give it to the materia system. But with materia, I found it very slow and tedious to level them up, and sometimes it was even difficult to get the best ones. In 9, I like how you don't miss these abilities if you're always topping yourself up with the best gear and weapons. Also, getting AP and leveling up these abilities felt a lot easier and simpler compared to leveling up materia in 7. Overall, a simpler character building system, but one that still works very well. One issue I had with menu management that made things a little more tedious and finicky was optimization. It's a great option to click on once you maxed out all the abilities a character has on their equipped gear, and then it automatically swaps all the gear with the best gear and the best stats that you have in your inventory. But I sort of wish there was a feature for optimize for stats, and another feature which was optimize for abilities. And what I mean by the latter is, there were times I would be in a dungeon or just a tougher part in the game. I still wanted strong equipment, but maybe I also wanted some good enough equipment that also did not have maxed out abilities, so I could focus on those and master those abilities. So if the game could optimize me with the best possible equipment with abilities I have not yet learned. That would have been nice, because the simple optimize feature would often give me gear with abilities I have already maxed out, and then I would have to dig through the menu again to see which gear would actually be best in that particular moment so I don't leave good abilities unlearned. The combat is your usual ATB, active time battling system, seen in games since Final Fantasy IV, but here's my biggest gripe with the battling system and the game in general. It is very, very slow. And I feel very, very lucky I was not playing the console version. In the Moguri mod menu, when you start up the game on Steam, you can adjust the speed of battles and adjust how fast you want the speed up boost to be. Specifically, if I needed to grind, I would set the battle speed very high, but also use the speed up feature so I can skip the annoyingly long animations, or even just speed up how long it takes to load into a fight. It was often annoying having to always go back and set all these metrics to my desired speed for battle and the multiplier for the speed up function and all that, since there were instances where I would just want to fight more normal paced battles, and times where I would not. High speed up functions were necessary in other parts of the game though, just to make it flow better and have a nice pace. Especially when it came to traveling the world map, traveling between districts in Lindblom, Chocobo Hot and Cold, Chocobo traveling in the world map, traveling by Gargans and Gargan and Fossil Roo, getting on the airship, traveling in the airship, landing the airship, getting off the airship. Like, sometimes I would go back to normal speed just to see how fast the game was really going in the speed up functions that ended up starting to feel normal to me. And to see the simple animations play out normally at a snail's pace was straight up baffling. Since I brought up the battle speed and speed up functions from the Moguri mod menu, I thought I'd touch on some other mods and cheats I would use here and there. The other two I'd commonly use were the max damage cheat if I wanted to easily grind for levels, money, or abilities, and of course disabling random encounters. Of course, those were not used all the time. I'd have the max damage cheat on if I wanted to specifically grind, or if I had a few abilities I needed to max out ASAP. Disabling random encounters, of course, was if I just wanted to beeline the story, or couldn't handle a battle and urgently needed a tent at a save point. For most of the game, and whenever I was in a dungeon or an important part of the story though, I'd have these all turned off, and probably just have the speed up function on. Another cheat that was available, which I toggled on, was the 100% steal rate, since I heard Zidane steals would often take many attempts to pull off, and I really wanted a lot of those good items and weapons and gear I'd get from a lot of the major bosses in the game. I thought I'd be a little more transparent on the cheats I used in this and when I use them and why I use them, because some people are either curious or are very particular on how I should play a retro game from 24 years ago. Anyways, exploration in this game was much smoother and easier than I thought it would be. Of course, running around on foot was fine, but once I got a fully upgraded Chocobo with all the abilities, I was able to run around the entire world map with no hitches or roadblocks, and it was actually a lot of fun. One thing I really appreciated was the airship had fast travel, which was a life and time saver, especially near the end of the game when I was completing some side quests like Chocobo Hot and Cold, the Chocobo Dead Pepper quests, and the Stellazio Coins quests. For those who are wondering, upon realizing that Ozma was one of the hardest bosses in the entire series, I decided to skip out on it for now, but maybe I'll go back to it later. Overall, this game doesn't really seem to overhaul the series into new heights in terms of gameplay loop or the formula or anything like that, but what works here really does work, and I really, really like it. Oh boy, I have a lot to talk about here, but I think the video is already getting too long. And I have a lot more to talk about beyond this. I think I'm going to honestly have to make an entire video dedicated to this topic alone, because there's just so much to talk about here. You guys might know, I love music in video games. It's a factor that can elevate a game to a higher level of appreciation, value, and quality for me. And some of you might know that my favorite thing about a JRPG's OST is the great use of leitmotifs, or in other words, reoccurring pieces of music or reoccurring melodies that signify a certain theme or symbolize a character. Final Fantasy IX does this very well, and it's all thanks to the masterful melodies of none other than Nobuo Uematsu. Uematsu is the master of crafting character themes that stick in your head and resonate with you for the rest of the game, and rearranging them and calling back to these melodies to symbolize the importance of said character or illustrate their growth throughout the adventure. I think he does this the best in Final Fantasy IX. Not only does he do this, but he creates themes and melodies that fit so perfectly with the current setting and atmosphere that it really immerses you into the experience. It's crazy because when I started this game, I kept thinking in my mind that I preferred the OST in 7, and the more I played the game, the more I heard, and the more I experienced. I think this is the OST that will remain with me forever. And despite 7's being really good, I think 9 beats it out just slightly. In this section, I want to quickly talk about a few songs and character motifs that stood out to me the most and how I interpret them. I'll be doing quite an abridged version of this because this part of the script ended up being quite longer, but stay tuned for a video in the future entirely dedicated to the OST and leitmotifs of Final Fantasy IX. So, getting started, Zidane's theme is heroic and chivalrous, and a melody that plays during the moments of triumph whenever he overcomes great hardships and achieves victories. But near the middle of the song, it turns a little bit more mellow, but it still retains that high optimistic energy. What's interesting is this part of the song returns and kind of shows Zidane's vulnerability as a protagonist when it comes back later in the game in Disc 3 as a song called Unrequited Love. Vivi's theme is a bouncy and whimsical tune that perfectly describes his clumsy, curious, and apprehensive nature as a small little black mage. Another theme associated with Vivi is the theme called Fleeting Life. It's a more somber, melancholy, and frankly depressing theme. It has a very contemplative and emotional mood behind it and fulfills its purpose perfectly to accompany Vivi's existential crises and depressing moments. But later on in the game, you enter a location known as the Black Mage Village. What's interesting is how this location theme combines the motifs heard in Vivi's theme and Fleeting Life to create something entirely new and unique. Garnet's theme needs no introduction. It's basically the main theme of the entire game, and plays in many moments. It's the world map theme as Over the Hill. It's Garnet's theme whenever she has her defining and iconic moments. It's Southgate, which is my favorite rendition of the theme, where Garnet reluctantly but determinedly takes a stand, and Eye to Eye. That's a song that plays when Zidane and Garnet encounter each other for the first time, and plays again near the end of the game, bringing everything back full circle. The most iconic version of this theme, though, is of course Melodies of Life, a song sung in the point of view of Garnet and recounting her adventures and feelings for her loved ones. The prevalence of all these songs throughout the game makes me actually think Garnet could actually be as much of a protagonist as Zidane. Zidane moves the story forward, but Garnet goes through so much development on her own, and experiencing these motifs in the game reminds you that this is certainly her story as well. Another favorite theme of mine is Freya's theme. It's very sad and melancholy, and basically the perfect theme for someone who's grieving over the loss of a lover who they don't know is dead or even alive. The theme of Freya, the Kingdom of Burmecia, and her lover, Sir Fratley, all share the same chord progression and innate melody. The evolution of her theme reminds us who and what she's fighting for. Same goes for the supporting character Beatrix. Whenever you fight her, you hear the song Wavering Blade, a slower and more tense version of her theme. But her main theme, Roses of May, is more tender and sophisticated and just a beautiful piano piece which plays whenever she's questioning her motives and her proper role in this war and as general of the soldiers of Alexandria. The best version of her theme, though, is Something to Protect. It picks up the tempo of Roses of May and adds strong percussion on top of orchestrated melodies with brass and strings to bring out more emotion. Easily one of the best songs in the game. Here I'm going to talk about some of my favorite moments in the game that are heavily spoiler related, so if you have not had the pleasure of playing this spectacular game, skip to this timestamp right here. That's your warning, spoilers, here we go. The end of each disc in the game was jaw-droppingly amazing. Discovering Kuja and Braun's plans in Burmecia, and seeing the straight-up genocide of the Burmecians in Clyra, insane. You literally see families and innocent people get obliterated right in front of you by black mages. And of course, by Odin. On top of that, seeing how people unjustly treated Vivi at this part of the game was really sad to see. I thought that was a very interesting choice to make in the narrative. Jumping forward to Disc 2, I literally screamed on VC with my friends on Discord when I discovered who Garnet truly was. The revelation that she was one of the summoners of Madain Sari made so much sense in hindsight. I love how they portrayed that moment with her hearing the song from her memory, which was being sung by Aiko, and how it brings the two of them closer. Just great stuff and great character development. And on top of that, the climax of that moment was amazing, with Kuja versus Bahamut, and then Bahamut obliterating Braun and her fleet. These moments just didn't even feel like I was playing on the PS1, I'm not gonna lie. It felt so much more advanced and so grand in terms of scale and scope. Jumping forward a bit to Disc 3, I love how the Bahamut versus Alexander moment was something that was set up at the very beginning in a way. Once I discovered that the summons were called Eidolons in this game and used a lot of the similar ones from older Final Fantasy entries, I never thought to connect the name of Garnet's kingdom to one of the most iconic Final Fantasy summons. It made so much sense. And I love when games leave small breadcrumbs of details like this. The name of the Kingdom of Alexandria, and the fragments of the crystal in possession of all other summoners and some characters, and in other kingdoms of Gaia, all leading up to this amazing, grandiose moment. Finally, I wanted to talk about Zidane and everything relating to him. At first, I'm gonna be honest, I thought the twist of him being a genome kinda came out of nowhere. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. It's something the music hints at, the motivations of Kuja hints at, the motivations of Zidane hints at, and the more you look back at the game, the more it makes sense. But the reason it hits hard, so hard, in the first place is because of one of the most iconic moments in the entire Final Fantasy series. Before I played Final Fantasy IX, I didn't know much about the story or spoilers, but one thing I did know is later in the game, the Not Alone segment is the iconic moment and what everything has been leading up to. I, knowing nothing, thought that Not Alone was Zidane's message to Dagger or Garnet. Little did I know it was the complete opposite. Zidane represents heroism, optimism, determination, positivity, and hope. Once Garland shatters his entire worldview and basically tells him his entire life is a lie, I can't blame Zidane for feeling the way he does. Forgetting who he truly is, abandoning his friends who he was meant to see as enemies, and not listening to his companions when they encourage him and want to stay by his side. Many JRPGs have that one specific moment where the party rallies by the protagonist and encourages them in their lowest point in the journey. Usually, these moments are kind of cringe and tropey. Each character has their own little catchphrase of encouragement mixed in with their tropey signature character trait to go along with it. This party rallying moment in FF9 is done so beautifully, with the song Not Alone adding to Zidane's tense mindset and bringing out the party's encouraging feelings towards him. And the fact that each party member rallies behind you in each wave of combat, it hits really hard. The music especially fits so perfectly in this specific moment, and with Garnet or Dagger joining in at the very end to remind Zidane of who he is and how much he means to everyone in the party, is just a great and emotionally charged moment. The very end of this game has also ended up topping my favorite video game endings of all time. I also usually judge endings based on if I tear up or not, and of course I did with this one. A friend of mine said to me that anyone who doesn't tear up at the end of Final Fantasy IX is heartless, and I kinda have to agree with that. Vivi's letter left me heartbroken, especially once I read it through a second time. Though it was nice that you do see his legacy and get to hear his final words, that was nice. Seeing how each party member is living a satisfying and happy life is very wholesome, but seeing Zidane and Dagger reunite was the best finale I could have ever expected and could have ever asked for, with melodies of life playing in the credits. It's a perfect conclusion to a phenomenal story with a lot of major motifs returning in that song. Another thing I loved about this truly bittersweet ending is how there's still sort of speculation and theories revolving around Vivi's fate and legacy to this date. I don't want to go too much into detail on this right now, but I do have my own theories. But there's so many other points of speculation online in forums and Reddit threads that I found very interesting that are still going on to this day. And I think these discussions might come back once people play and complete the rumored remake of Final Fantasy IX. Speaking of which, it's a great transition point to talk about the elephant in the room. I already explained that this game was in my pile of shame and I wanted to beat this before any rumored remake was announced. I think I'm safe for a good bit though. Like, we just got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and the earliest I can see this remake being announced would be at maybe Summer Games Fest this June for a possible 2025 release. So I think I have some time to sit on the OG. This might age very poorly depending on how long this video takes to get out though, so I apologize in advance if any announcement or confirmation has been made. But what do I want from a remake? Not too much, honestly, because I'm one of the few people who thinks that Final Fantasy IX doesn't really need a remake as much as other games on the PlayStation 1 like Final Fantasy VIII and Xenogears. Just like my own dedicated OST video, I'll probably try to make a video on what I want to see in a remake in more detail, so I'll keep this segment a little on the shorter end as well. The battle system should stay the same for the most part, but I would hope that it is sped up quite a bit and just flows a little better. I don't want to have to rely on speed up functions, and I don't think that would even be in the remake anyways. I hope the menu management is better, and that goes for the battle menus as well as the item and gear equipment menus. There's just way too much scrolling, and I hope that for specifically abilities, you can manually prioritize abilities and attacks to be ordered in a certain way, in a certain order within your battle menu. I'm curious to see how the world map would translate over to a remake. It's not something you usually see in modern RPGs nowadays, so I'm curious to see if it'll look and feel the exact same, or have some small changes here and there. That goes for airship travel and chocobo travel as well. I'm curious to see if Chocobo Hot and Cold will be the exact same or simplified in any way to make it less tedious. I hope the OST isn't altered too much. Keep what worked and maybe add an option to keep the original OST. If it's orchestrated, then please do it justice. The biggest thing I hope to see, or in fact actually hear, is the potential and possible inclusion of voice acting. With a story this good, I hope to hear the characters come to life with really good and high quality voice acting. I can actually think of some good VAs to cast as the characters in this game, but stay tuned for the possible Final Fantasy IX Remake video to hear more about that if we don't get an announcement or confirmation about voice actors within that time period. We'll see. Basically, I think the remake will be good, but I still don't think it would really need it. It's good to hear that the remake doesn't seem to be a massive and major overhaul like the Final Fantasy VII remake seemed to be. I hope it's more along the lines of Persona 3 Reload, or if they want to take some more liberties, maybe something along the lines of Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia. But I guess only time will tell. Alright, so what did you guys think of my experience with this game? Like, whoever's watching this video, if any of you guys have played both 7 and 9, I want to know what you guys think of both of those games in the comments below. I want to know which one you like more, which one had more of an impact on you, especially the people who have played these games back on the PlayStation 1. Just tell me a little bit about your stories with these games. I'm really curious to hear what it was like when both of these games first came out and what your experiences with them were like, what you liked, what you disliked. And I'm just so excited to continue playing more of these games, especially Final Fantasy X. I think that one's right up my alley. I think I'm really gonna vibe with that game. I am recording this part of the video on June 1st, 2024, and as of now, no remake has been announced, but whenever the remake does come, before the remake, after the remake, I'm going to have a lot to say about it. I'm really curious how this remake is going to enhance some of the things we've seen in FF9 and maybe change some things. Like most people are saying, it's not going to be as drastic as the 7 remake series or anything like that, but I'm very excited for what they show us and when they show it to us. I'm really curious when that's going to happen. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching till the very end, I really appreciate it. If you are watching till the end, and if you've gotten this far, I would like to humbly ask you, please give this video a like. It means so much to me. It really helps me out more than you can imagine. And I just appreciate every single one of your guys' support, likes, comments, subscriptions so far. And this year I've been on quite a roll with some videos. I'm really happy with how things are turning out. It's been really great to hear your guys' feedback and responses to some of the things I've been putting out in the comments below. So thank you guys so much for that. And I want to, on camera, give a special shout out to all my channel members. It's been such a pleasure talking with you guys on live chats and in the comments section and even sometimes outside of YouTube as well. And I appreciate your guys' support. Your support means so much to me, and I can't even put it to words. Thank you guys so much for everything. You guys keep the content going and keep me inspired to do better and to do more. And if you guys are not a member of the Niche Quick Pops channel, if you guys like the content, if you want to support me a little further, check out memberships down below. I have a few extra perks that you guys might be interested in. Anyways, that does it for Final Fantasy IX. I don't really know when I plan to play 10, but be on the lookout for whenever I do play 10, and I'm so excited for that. I will definitely sort of make a video like this for 10 as well. So keep your notifications on for more Nintendo, JRPG, Final Fantasy, Xenoblade Chronicles, all that kind of content on the channel. This is Niche Quick signing off. Have a great day. Go play some great games today, like Final Fantasy IX, and go try out the Moguri mod. I think you guys might enjoy it. It's the definitive way to play the game, in my opinion. I'll see you guys in the next one later. Hey guys, this is Niche Quick. Thank you so much for watching that video. And if you enjoyed it, check out these 2 videos on the left and maybe subscribe if you haven't on your way out. And big shout out to all my channel members whose names you can see on the screen right now. I'll see you guys in the next video later.